So they are also expected to fulfill the outcomes which I have prepared for them. Then I will go with some short stories. Then uh, accreditation, why it is, although it is
Hello.
significant.
Hello.
Also, I will give some examples world's ranked universities. So, hello. ओके ओके ओके. आता बघा. हॅलो. आता येतोय.
आता
ओके
येतोय
ओके.
ऐकू सर.
ठीक आहे ठीक आहे सर. ठीक. ओके ओके ओके. ठीक. Adjusting. For task of why accreditation, why outcome-based education, and so on. Three fishes. Three fish lived in a pond. They were named as plan ahead, think fast, and wait and see. One day, they heard a fisherman say would be casting his net in their pond the next day. Plan ahead said, I am swimming down the river tonight. Think fast said, I am sure I will come up with a plan. Wait and see said, I just can't think about it now, I am tired. But when the fisherman cast his net the next day, plan ahead was already further down the river and thus remained free. Unfortunately, think fast and wait and see were caught by the fisherman. But think fast quickly rolled belly up and pretend to be dead. Oh, this fish is no good, said the fisherman, and threw it safely back into the water. But unfortunately, wait and see ended up in the fish market. That is why people say, in time of danger, when the net is cast, plan ahead or plan to think fast. That's why in this age of mushrooming institutions in the country, the net is casted and there is a need to go for quality. And that is one benchmark for that is accreditation. So that's why I said accreditation is need of the day to survive, think fast, and plan ahead. With these narratives, let us start with the session of the basics about accreditation and then go ahead one by one for this. What is accreditation? Everybody knows, everybody hears this on net, lot of information is available. NBA website has all these slides, everything we go through. It's a formal recognition of the quality of educational program or institution by an external independent agency on the basis of impartial assessment on the basis of well-defined criteria. As you know, we had different criteria nowadays to go ahead with accreditation. And who does it? As we know, it's NBA does it for all the programs of engineering and technology, management, architecture, pharmacy, hospitality, and mass communication, etc., from diploma level to PG level. And also, institutional accreditation is done by NAC, National Assessment and Accreditation Council. The difference is NBA does the accreditation program wise, whereas NAC does institute wise. That is the difference. what is the significance of accreditation? Again and again, many times when I go and visit many institutes for sometimes for giving expert talk or for guiding them, sometimes management call for guiding their institution to go ahead with accreditation and so on. I find that always people have in mind that what is my benefit of out of going for accreditation? That is the question when they don't ask it in front of management, but they ask it when there is a break or tea time and so on. That how I will be benefited from that. And in government institutions, the faculties ask this question in front of principal also because unko डर नहीं होता because they had a permanent life of job. So they ask, what is my how I am benefited from this accreditation? Okay. So some of the significance of accreditation and how I am benefited is again a different perspective altogether because what I feel for me it it is for me I am very much satisfied with when somebody says that yes you are from the accredited program, you are the faculty whose program is accredited, and we will like to have our parents like to have their son or daughter to study there. So for me that is enough. I think that itself is a recognition that I will say that I am providing the quality education. Although there are n number of more significance of any accreditation at the national level, if we say students and parents nowadays select the institution and program for admission because the admission is a big issue nowadays, as I told, because of n number of institutions. So if we had a quality parameter, if we go through all this, there is a possibility that we will get good students and good admission. Recruitment. Also, the industries have started going for deciding about the institutions on the basis of their quality parameter. One of them is accreditation. Also, institutions to avail the benefits from regulatory bodies for funding agencies. Because if you see the funding from AICT or from DSP, so there you are being given this advantages if your program is accredited, and then in AICT you have separate marks for that in evaluation whether the program is accredited. Also, in the mobility of students pursuing higher studies, that at international level also those who are coming under the Washington Accord, the mobility of students if they are completing some credits here, they can be transferred to the other countries. That is the mobility of students, what you can say. So students get quality education as you have some datum, some parameters on which you are judged. In this, there is already mandate in the, if you see the NBA format of self-assessment report, alumni has a role there to share their experiences and participate in curriculum updates in view of emerging technology and tools. Development of faculty benefits, as you say, many opportunities they can get in this attempting for more complex problems. They can get career advancement, consultancy, sponsored R&D, fundings, and so on. Exchange of views, opportunities to supplement each other's requirement. As I told, employers nowadays are asking for the accreditation to see whether this with requisite technical and behavior skill, graduate attributes, etc., are there in the students or not. Institute builds up a brand. If you are accredited, you build up a brand. And accreditation is all about continuous improvements towards excellence. So that is the major benefit what we say. And graduation from an accredited program is educational passport for engineers mobility across good number of advanced nations and emerging economies. And these graduates may get leadership positions and challenging technology development opportunities. And also faculty may also get invitation for lectures, research guidance, and academic leadership, administration, and so on. Industry can hire graduates from accredited institutions for innovation intensive projects for higher profits, what you say. So these are in brief so many you can say these benefits of accreditation, and the most benefit is the self respect which I will get, that I will always be proud to have me being in the program which is accredited. So that is the major advantage which I feel for me and being as an individual. There are many accrediting processes and which recognizing the accreditation. This is under Washington Accord, under which we are going for the accreditation. There is a Sydney Accord, Dublin Accord, and so on. But the where we this NBA comes under the Washington Accord, and this accord is signed among 6 countries initially in 1989. The world leader in education, what you can say, Australia, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, UK, and US. The purpose is to mutually recognize and accept the qualification accredited by signatories. So, being these were the permanent signatories, 6 countries, so their purpose was to accept the qualifications accredited by signatories. The Accord, Washington Accord, at present has 15 full signatories and 5 provisional signatories. Okay. And these members of Washington Accord follows outcome-based accreditation or outcome-based education, OBE. So these are the signatories like Australia, Canada, Chinese, Taipei, Hong Kong, China, Ireland, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, Singapore. And India, India's National Board of Accreditation is one of the permanent signatory of Washington Accord from 2014. And these other countries are provisional members of Washington Accord. There are different accreditation models, and now the model which we are following is the outcome model. Okay. Before that, there was minimal model and there was input-output model, where we used to judge on the basis of what is the percentage of what is the result percentage, and what is the percentage of the candidate. On that basis, we used to judge, that is output. And in outcome focuses on the objectives and outcomes of the program. And also it requires evidence of measurement and attainment of objectives and outcomes. And it encourages continuous improvement. That is what is in outcome-based education and what is expected. But as in red, I have just highlighted that it is being the, you can say, perception that too much data may be collected and analyzed periodically. That is what is one of the hurdle what many faculties think about this initially when this outcome model was being followed. But let us see whether really it is like that or not in coming slides. Okay. Outcome-based education is student-central instruction model that focuses on measuring student performance through outcomes. And what is exactly these outcomes? Outcomes include knowledge, skill, and attitude. Its focus remains on evaluation of outcomes of the program by stating the knowledge, skill, and behavior of a graduate, which is expected to attain upon completion of a program and after 4 or 5 years of graduation. And in the OBE model, the required knowledge and skill sets for a particular engineering degree is predetermined, and the students are evaluated for all the required parameters, that is outcomes, during the course of the program. The OBE model measures the progress of the gratitude in 3 parameters, which are program educational objectives, PEOs, program outcomes, and now in parallel there are program specific outcomes also, PSOs, course outcomes. The various assessment tools for measuring these course outcomes are, as many of us knows, in direct assessment we had in semester or mid-semester examination, end semester examinations, or tutorials or assignments, project work, lab work, presentations. And in indirect, we had employers, alumni feedback, etc., or course exit survey, program exit surveys, and so on. These course outcomes are mapped to graduate attributes and program outcomes based on relevance. Because as you might be knowing that GAs are only now converted into program outcomes, and that's why the relevance of COs to be mapped to GA or program outcomes. This evaluation pattern helps institution to measure the program outcomes, okay, when we are mapping the COs to POs and so on. And the program educational objective is measured through employee satisfaction survey and alumni survey, etc. Because PEOs is something which is what is the expectations from the candidate after 4 or 5 years. So definitely that time the candidate is in service. So employer satisfaction survey or being alumni, what is his perception about the PEOs. So that's why it is measured through employer survey and alumni survey. So when we talk about outcome-based education, then we talk about the outcome-based curriculum, what the students should be able to do, what are the attributes, graduate attributes, GA we talk about. So GA are aligned with the program outcomes. And then when we are framing the curriculum, we are making the student to achieve the outcome. And for that purpose, we have the outcome-based learning and teaching, OBLT. And then outcome-based assessment, how to measure what the student has achieved. So that's the process. But when we talk about the key constitutions of outcome-based education, this is a diagram used by every expert might be giving the input about OBE or outcome-based education. So here, how we design and how we assess the attainment. We design top up. What is the vision and mission of the institution? What are the program educational objectives for a particular program? And then POs of that program but as nowadays POs are generic given by NBA and same for all, and they are being aligned with graduate attributes. But we need to frame program specific outcomes for the particular program. If it is civil engineering or mechanical engineering or electrical engineering or electronics and telecommunication engineering, CSE. So we will frame program specific outcomes there to have a flavor of the program, because POs are generic. They don't have flavor of any particular program. They have flavor of graduate attributes. What graduate, after graduation, what attributes a candidate should have. But that doesn't give the flavor of the program. So program specific outcomes are in parallel with the POs. If we have 12 POs and we can have in the same matrix 3 to 4 PSOs, which will have a flavor of the particular program. I will give you example when we will discuss it actually the PSOs. And then course outcomes. This is the way we design. But the attainment, when we go for the direct attainment, it is the reverse. We have to have the attainment for course outcomes. And after knowing the attainment of course outcomes, as they are mapped to program outcomes and program specific outcomes, we can have the attainment for POs and PSOs in the direct way. And from the alumni and from the industry, we can have indirect feedback about the performance of the our students after 3-4 years, and that will give us the program education PEOs, attainment of PEOs, that is indirect way. Okay, so these are the key constituents of outcome-based education. Okay. I will go through brief of all this to just clear what is the difference and when which to be evaluated and so on. As vision is what is vision? It's a futuristic statement that the institution or department would like to achieve over a long period of time, like 25, 30, 35 years. So that is the vision. And what is mission statement? They are essentially the means to achieve the vision. Okay. And how to achieve the vision? They are the steps to achieve the vision. What I will say in this. Okay. For example, if you had a vision to create high quality engineering professional, this is your vision. Then the mission would be offer a well balanced program of instruction, practical experience, and opportunities for overall personality development. So these are the things, steps which you need to do to achieve the particular vision. Okay. So if I talk about PEOs, program educational objectives are broad statements that describe the career and professional accomplishment that the program is preparing the graduate to achieve. Okay. So how to frame PEOs? Because PEOs we are framing for our program. PEOs will not be given. PEOs as PEOs are given by NBA, but PEOs we will frame for our program. So PEOs should be consistent with the mission of the institution. What is the mission of the institution? The number of PEOs should be manageable. So it should be 3 to 4, not more than that. Okay. PEOs should be achievable by the program. The statement should be achievable by the program, because you cannot write that I will be the this program will see that we produce world topper and which can serve Silicon Valley or something like that. No, it should not be like that. It should be achievable by the program. PEOs should be specific to the program and not too broad. Yes, as we are talking about POs, POs are more generic, but POs should be specific to the program and not too broad. They should talk about the accomplishment your student will have after 4 or 5 years, so very specific to the program. And also, POs should be based on the needs of the constituencies. Means what is needed nearby us, what is needed near. We are serving the constituencies. We are not preparing our students to go and serve other country, to go and serve other state or something like that. Many times it's necessary also they go to other states, and that cannot be very much you can say consent to that. But first priority should be to serve our constituencies. What faculties, etc. is needed, and based on that accepted views, you will frame the program educational objectives, and from that PEOs you will design your courses with the defined objectives, and you will also design the electives and core courses which are needed so that you will achieve the program educational objectives, and you will have the courses to achieve the objectives. That so the record of all these, the files of minutes of meetings and the evidences of emails from industry helping you in framing the PEOs is needed as a backup data when you talk about the program education objectives, and that will be seen by the evaluators. I will just give the example of program educational objective here. Suppose if it's a civil engineering program, and as I already told you that PEOs are the statements where you see your student after 4 or 5 years. So the statement should be, you have to write the statements in that way that after 4 or 5 years, what the student will be, at what positions he will be there, and what career he will be pursuing. So develop a professional to pursue career as a civil engineer with adequate technical knowledge and skills while using modern tools for problem solving and exhibiting qualities of communication, team membership and leadership. Okay. develop ability to practice ethically, focusing on social relevance, environmental sustainability, optimal solutions, and safety of stakeholders. And also develop abilities of lifelong learning to continuously strive to enhance decision making abilities to investigate, design, and develop complex facilities. So, first and second is majorly more about the, you can say, the program. Third is a little generic, what we will see is not very specific, but also it is also needed to have the ability of lifelong learning and making ability to investigate and design and develop complex facilities. But it might be used by other programs. Okay. These are the GAs, which are graduate attributes for UG programs, which are given here as engineering knowledge, problem analysis, design and development of solution. And everybody knows this as communication, project management, lifelong learning, ethics, environmental and sustainability, modern tool uses, and so on. And the engineer and society, etc. And these GAs in later on, if you see, they are mapped with the POs and the PO statements are being prepared. So what are the POs? Program outcomes are narrow statements that describe what students are expected to know and able to do by the time of graduation. So POs are during their graduation, what they are expected to know. And POs are basically, they describe the knowledge, skill, and behavior of student as they progress through the program, as well as by the time of graduation. They also should not be too broad. They must be aligned with the GAs, and they must reflect all the GAs. And but maybe before 5-6 years, we used to prepare POs also for our program. But now PO statements are given by NBA only, and they are common for all the programs. 12 POs are given by NBA, and only PSOs are to be framed program-wise by us. So, as I was telling you that all the GAs are being aligned with the POs. So, engineering knowledge is one of the GA, problem analysis, design development of solution. And here, what is expected under this engineering knowledge, that apply knowledge of mathematics, science, or engineering fundamentals and an engineering specialization to the solution of complex engineering problem, and so on. So these are the three. Then conduct investigation and complex problems that using research based on knowledge and research methods, including design of experiments, etc. Then modern tool uses, that modern engineering and IT tools, including prediction and modeling of complex engineering activities with an understanding of the limitations. Then engineer and society, to apply reasoning informed by conceptual knowledge to assess societal, health, safety, legal and cultural issues of the consequent responsibilities relevant to professional engineering practice. Environment and sustainability ethics, apply ethical principles. Individual and teamwork, function effectively as an individual and as a member of learner, communicate effectively on complex engineering activities. And lifelong learning, recognize the need for and have the preparation and the ability to engage in independent and lifelong learning. Project management, and these are I have just gone through it very fast because everybody is aware that these are the 12 GAs. 12 GAs are formed into 12 POs, and they are being little described so that there will be more clarity about that when you map them with the COs. Okay, so I will not spend more time on this, as everybody is aware of all these POs also. Just given the flavor of that. Then PSOs. As I was talking to you, that POs are more generic, as you have seen, and they are common for all the programs. That's why for a particular program, we also need program specific outcomes, which will be in addition to the POs. Okay. So they will have flavor of the program. If you here I have example of civil engineering program, where you can see that able to analyze various civil engineering structures and systems by using basic and advanced technologies. This is the first PSO for civil engineering program. Student will be able to. Second, student will be able to design civil engineering facilities and their elements, and also use of modern software tools for the same. Students will be able to plan, monitor, and supervise construction activities to complete civil engineering facilities satisfactorily. Students will be able to practice as construction professionals through ethical practice while focusing on sustainability and economy. So if you see, all these four PSOs are having the flavor of the program. Okay, civil engineering program. This is giving the flavor of civil engineering program. Okay, that's why they are called as program specific outcomes. So each of the program for which you are going for accreditation, we need to frame the PSOs with the help of our stakeholders, with the help of our faculties, with the help of our alumni, industries, etc. And we need to keep proper record of all this, how we have framed the PSOs, so that we can show the evidences, because everywhere evidences, we talk about the evidences here. I don't know who is marking this red mark, because I'm not doing anything. Somebody has access to the screen, I think.
Yeah, somebody's
Yeah,
displaying.
yeah, sir, please see over, because or some baby or
Absolutely.
somebody is doing something, I don't know. Okay. And now, very important and fundamental of OB, on which everything is based, that is CO, course outcome. What is the relevance of course outcome in all this process? Very important fundamental of the OBE, because all the things starts with the course outcome, and we frame it COs. In the institutions affiliated to universities, at many places nowadays in new curriculum, university might have framed the COs for the courses. Otherwise, for all autonomous institutions, the institutions frame their COs, course outcomes. But although university has framed the COs, this is a question always, that whether we can add or whether we can modify the COs. Yes, it's always. You can always add the COs. You can always modify the COs, which will be more appropriate for mapping, etc., mapping to the COs and so on. There is no such binding that you should go with the same COs which are written there. You can always modify them. You can always, you can say, improve them. So there's always continuous improvement is always welcome. So course outcomes should be learning and not coverage based. They should be student focused, not professor focused. They should be learning and not coverage oriented. Then alignment of the course program and institutional level, in that course outcome need to reflect both the objectives and outcomes that the academic program represent. What program education objectives you have written, what way is the institution level vision and mission. So it should be aligned to that, and as well as the broader mission of the institution as a whole. Focus on abilities central to the discipline. Okay. So here, course outcome should help prepare students for what is important to the discipline of which the course is a part. So this is more about the ability central to the discipline. So here they cannot be generic. Course outcomes are very specific to the discipline. If it is a mechanical engineering, they are very specific to the mechanical engineering and the curriculum of mechanical engineering. Okay. So part of that. Okay. Focus on aspects of learning that will endure. Means teaching student new mode of thinking is likely to have an impact on their future. So having the memorized fact tends to be much more short-lived. So in course outcome statement, you should have that level of learning and thinking. That is what we talk about. Always talk about Bloom taxonomy when there is a when we talk about teaching learning process. So no session can go without Bloom taxonomy. Means at what level of thinking and level of learning we expect our students to go. That is very important, and that should reflect in our course outcomes. Otherwise, many times we write course outcome very loosely, and there only we lose everything. because when a evaluator like me visit an institution for accreditation, luckily I had an honor to visit many of the NITs also to assess their programs for accreditation. And also more than 12 states now I have visited engineering institutions for accreditation. And before visiting accreditation, we generally go through their website, and we will see their data on the website, what data they have for the stakeholders of them. And also their self-assessment report is shared to us before going to visit, maybe 1 week or 10 days before. So we go through that, and I myself will first like to see the course outcomes, and whether course outcomes are loosely drafted, whether course outcomes are thought of being the new modes of thinking and learning. That will be my first thing to see. If I find that the course outcomes are very loosely drafted, then my first impression will be just this institution is just going for accreditation, and there are no such quality practices of learning and thinking exist here. That is what is my first impression about the institution. So for that, it is always I will say necessary to go with proper course outcomes in the curriculum, which will be observable, which will be measurable. Many times we are not aware what is observable and what is measurable, and we use. And I have seen many institutions. It's not one or two. A number of institutions have CEOs like student will be able to know this thing. Student will be able to understand this. Student will be able to acquainted with this, and just student will be able to acquainted with, and then just uske samne chipka do just your title of the lesson, like that. So easily you can make the course outcome. But whether these verbs which you are using are measurable, that is what we have to ask ourselves. In the body of knowledge, you had a Google with you, you had so many things nowadays. You just go and see whether this student will be able to know, understand, whether these are measurable. So there is this is the course outcomes should be limited to manageable number. So learning outcomes should focus a course on means COs should be manageable. Means there should not be very lot of COs for one course, 4 to 6 COs for a course, and they should be specific enough to be measurable. That is what I was telling is whether know or understand, whether they are measurable. So they should be specific enough to measurable. So I will talk about measurable, and then in coming slides, what is called as measurable. Being COs is the most fundamental and most important part of outcome-based education, because everything is aligned with COs. Outcomes, for what we are preparing the student, then outcomes are mapped with POs, and then COs, and so on. Okay. Now, here also, especially Siddharth sir asked me to talk about the mapping, etc. Also, what is mapping? There are always questions on mapping, and mapping is always a debatable issue. That mapping loosely mapped, strongly mapped, not properly mapped, and so on. So, what is this mapping of CO to POs? Many faculties ask me many times that we have mapped all our, whether we should map one particular CO to all the POs and PSOs. And few institutions have mapped also. And mapping is like, you know, that high, medium, and low is 3 to 1. That is the mapping. 3 is 100%, 2 is like 2/3, and 1 is like 1/3, like that. What is the significance of that particular CO with the PO? Okay. So here, the first I will answer the first question, which is generally there, that whether each CO should be mapped to all POs and PSOs. No, not at all. It is not possible at all. A CO talks about something, some verb you are using, some specific GA you are going to have there with this particular CO. It cannot map with all the POs or all the PSOs. So it will map with few POs which are relevant to the GA, graduate attributes, which you are going to achieve because of this particular CO. And Mainly the statement of CO or the verb we are using in the CO and the process you are going to do in the CO will let you know where you map it into the PO if you read the PO statements. And then whether it is mapping strongly or mediumly, that also you can decide basis of that. So one CO can map 333 to 2 3 POs, maybe 2 to 1 or 2 PO, and 1 to some PO, and then 3 POs. There might not be any mapping where you have to just put dash. But there was one more incidence also where I have seen that there were n number of COs written, and a particular CO was not mapped with a single PSO. Now I'm talking about PSO. There are 4 PSOs or 3 PSOs for program specific outcomes for a particular program. Now, if your CO is not mapping with a single PSO, then what is the relevance of your CO? Because program specific outcome, they are program specific outcomes which will be achieved through your COs. So each of your CO will definitely map to at least 1 or 2 PSOs, program specific outcomes. It will never happen that it is not mapping with a single PSO. So that is very clear. But it is not necessarily that CO will map with all the POs or CO will map with all the PSOs. Okay. So this mapping, although is always debatable, so I generally recommend to the institution that while mapping, you just spare 2 hours twice or thrice initially on mapping. You should have the metrics of COs after drafting your COs or finalizing your COs. You just have a screen in a closed, you can say, hall where all the stakeholders, all your faculties, management, even you can have some brilliant students, and some of the employers and some of the alumni if possible, or you can do this exercise internally first with the faculties, and then you can call them to just see the appropriateness of that. So that is the way you have to modify your mapping so that it will be more clear, because with the perspective of employer, alumni, they have a little more industry focus and so on. So they will be more useful to you to decide the mappings with other perspective also, with being academic and being industry. So both the things will be taken care, and mapping will be more proper. So you should have the metrics ready, all the COs ready in the rows, you can say, and you have the columns in which you have all the POs and PSOs, where you have to just have 3, 2, or 1. You can have a list of POs and PSOs with you, and then you can just tell whether 2 or 3 or 1 and where it is mapping. So that is the proper way of going ahead with the mapping of COs, POs, and PSOs. Okay. And assessment tools, etc., which we are using for direct assessment, indirect assessment are known to everybody. That indirect assessment with rubrics, alumni survey, employer survey, course end survey, which we should go. And when to assess? Many times there is a issue that course outcomes, when we have to assess course outcomes during the course is on during the semester, and upon completion of the course we will have the attainment with us. Okay. Then program outcomes upon graduation, but it's a gradual process. First year COs will come, second year COs will come, third year COs will come, final year COs will come, and they are mapped with POs, and then the PO attainment will come. When PEOs, program educational objectives, will be assessed few years after graduation, that is 4 to 5 years after graduation, and there is no direct attainment for this. PEOs will be assessed on the basis of some questions or some surveys or some you can some forms which you will prepare, and you will have the feedback from the employers, feedback from the alumni after 4 5 years after 4 5 years of their graduation. So that way we have this assessment of COs, POs, and PSOs. And there is the role of industry in OB, as I told you. We should involve them in vision mission of the department, while defining, describing the process, and so on. and then we need to have their, you can say, in the stakeholders, the external stakeholders include the industry, alumni, or employers, etc. And also, if you see these are, industry has a role in industry supported laboratories. There are marks for that. Industry involvement in the program design and partial delivery. Whether some particular course is being taught by the industry. For that, there are separate marks. And industry analysis of industry interaction and actions they are taken off, etc. So there are different marks. The industry training course, industry internship, summer trainings of more than 2 weeks, and post training assessment. So it has separate marks in the SAR. So we should have compulsory internship, we should have industrial training, industrial tools, and we should also analyze the impact of these activities through some survey or some feedback from the student on this particular initiative. And all these things have marks. That's why I have added this role of industry in alumni. And also visiting an adjunct or eminent faculty, also maybe industry experts, etc. And that has also separate marks. That if we had a one or two adjunct faculty or visiting faculty who is covering almost 50 hours in a year, so maybe some 20-30 hours in one course and 20-30 hours in another course, some one or two faculties or industry persons or retired professors or industry expert is coming here and delivering. So that has separate marks in there. So these practices will add into quality parameters and will expose students to the industry practices or to the experienced faculties which have experience of maybe after retirement they are coming and delivering to another institution and so on. So yeah, nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. But yes, always when we have to do something more, or we need enthusiasm to do that. Or otherwise, what if we say that whether this is my work, whether that is my work, then the things will definitely not happen. So, how can we make the difference? So, to make any difference, difference will be made with some we should have we should be passionate to make the difference. We should have different good ideas to make a difference. We should have we should be in position to make sincere effort to make the difference, and then only the difference can be made. In as I was talking about the COs, and that time we had also talked about Bloom taxonomy. I will not go in detail of Bloom taxonomy because it takes a week also if you go through the Bloom and for all its parameters and how to design the questions or POs according to Bloom and so on. But the concept, when we talk about higher order thinking or higher forms of thinking in education to promote the higher forms, we need to talk about Bloom also in this platform. So it is most often used when designing educational training and learning processes. There are three domains mainly in educational activities or learning: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Okay. KSA, or we can say knowledge, skill, and attitude. When it is always a question by the evaluators to the institutions when they go through their assessment process. When we go to visit at the lab and we see their assessment, the lab manuals or the submissions which students have done. And as usual, as being faculty, we had always 10 marks for each assignment. And we give, in most of the institutions, we had a practice to give 8, 9, 10, 8, 9, 10. So the student will not have any complaint. And when the expert comes as an NB evaluator, he asks the basis on the basis of which you have given this whatever. If you have given 8, 9, or 10, how you arrived to this 8, 9, or 10? That time, the faculty don't have explanation to tell. They only say that yes, we assess the student, and depending on his or her performance, we are giving this 10 marks. Then, if smartly we want to do this work, and if we do it according to the domains of learning, there is knowledge, skill, and attitude. and we divide the marks accordingly. If it's a lab, if to perform a particular experiment needs some knowledge, so that we can observe while the student is doing it. Knowledge about doing this and the skill to perform, which is observable. And attitude we can link with his or her you can say regularity and sincerity, timely work, and so on. So that where we will have this attitude been evaluated. So if we had assessment in these three parameters and we have divided these marks into these three parameters, we can justify also to the committee that on the basis of these three parameters, I have given these three marks. Out of that, these are the marks which I have given to the, and that will be, I think, more justified to tell rather than out of 10, just how that if we don't have anything to explain about that. Okay, so not go in the depth of all this. But the new domains of Bloom are the levels which we talk about when we talk about COs or when we talk about the question paper setting, etc. At what level you have set the question level of learning? When we are mapping the question to the level of learning, and according to new domain, remembering is the lowest level of learning, that is L1. Understanding is L2. Applying is L3. Analyzing is suppose L4. Evaluating is L5, and creating is the highest level of learning, sixth level or level 1, level 2, level 3. That is what. And that's why when we talk about the different levels, we should be in position to pick a proper keyword or a proper verb so that we can pick the particular level. So again, I will not take more time here. This I have given the keywords, and for this is available. Most of the you can just, but I will go ahead and I will see what to avoid and how to frame proper course outcomes, etc. So these expected learning outcomes may be new, but the process of identifying the key concepts or skills the students are expected to learn during specific course is not. So it is course objective or course competency or learning outcome or course outcome. Okay. So they are very similar, both of these concepts. So what we talk about here is a course outcome. We are very close to that, all this terminology. So how we write the course outcomes actually, as I have told you, although the course outcomes are given by university also, it is very much advisable that we should refine the course outcomes to see that they are measurable, they are observable, they are enduring the level of learning or level of thinking, etc. So, okay. For that purpose, because this is the basis of outcome-based education, the course outcome. That's why, although there are n number of presentations which we can give on NBA, we can give a full presentation on only on mapping. We can give one full presentation of how to write course outcomes to strongly map with the program outcomes. So one full presentation on that. We can have n number of presentations on different criteria. Criteria 1 to criteria 10, we can have 5 sessions on that. So that is, but the basis, the very important as being this, there are a number of participants from different institutions across the country. What is the basis for OBE? So that's why more emphasis I am giving on course outcome, writing of course outcomes, and the observable and measurable course outcome. So especially when we write course outcomes of a course, we identify the purpose of teaching the particular course. And then faculty can discover the main topics or themes related to student learning. And these themes help to outline the expected learning outcomes for the course. These themes may not be necessarily the title of chapter, because sometimes you have 12 chapters, then you cannot go for 12 course outcomes. So you have to discover the main topics or themes related to the student learning. Okay. And then we have to ask ourselves the questions: what role does this course play within the measure overall and the curriculum? What is the course unique or different from other courses? why should do student take this particular course? What essential knowledge or skill should be they gain from this experience? What knowledge or skills from this course will students need to have mastered to perform well in future classes or job? Why is this course important for students to take? So this is the role of faculty on his or her first lecture, to make students understand why this course is important to them, why they should study this course. Sometimes some courses students say that being I am but I have chosen particular branch of engineering, why you are teaching me this particular course which I don't think is required for my. So you should be in position to interact with them and to tell them why this course is necessary for them. And then when we talk about the outcomes, how to write the outcomes for the particular course, what is the outcome? It's a formal statement of what students are expected to learn in a course. Now, in this, expected learning outcome statements refer to specific knowledge, practical skills, areas of professional development, attitudes, higher order thinking skills, etc., that faculty members expect students to develop, learn, or master during a course. So this is the basis to decide the COs, because we are many times not giving very much importance to the COs. We are just interested in getting the attainment and having the table for the mandatory requirement of NBA and so on. No, it is not. It is the CO which defines whether it is in the institution to go for quality education or not. That is the first, what I told you, that is the first impression of the evaluator. So, as I told, this expected learning outcomes are oftenly referred to learning outcomes or student learning outcomes or learning outcome statements or course outcome. That is what we say here as a course outcome. Okay. And then I have also talked about outcomes that they should be observable, measurable, and so on. So these are the three major characteristics of the course outcome. They specify an action by the student learner that is observable. They specify an action by the student learner that is measurable. And they specify an action that is done by the student learner rather than the faculty member. Okay. So observable, measurable, and that is done by the learner. Okay. So, hello. Can you please off your mic? Somebody. Hello. हेलो सर, ये माइक बंद करवा दो, किसी का चालू है ये.
Okay, sir. We will do it from our end. You continue.
Yes. So, writing effective learning outcome statement, as I am focusing more on learning outcomes, how to write effective learning outcome statements? What are the good action verbs to be included in expected learning outcome statements? So that is some of them I have listed here, and some of them in a table where you can also define the level of learning and also the learning outcome good action verb, like compile, identify, create, or plan, utilize, compute, discuss. These are few of the good action words to include in expected learning outcome statement. But there are some words that are unclear in the context of an expected learning outcome statement, which we should not use at all. And that's why I'm giving more focus here. Like that is no. We many times write student will be able to know and particular title of a particular lesson. Student will be aware of. Student will appreciate. Student will understand. Student will comprehend. A student will become familiar with. So all these words, if they are as a verb in your course outcome statement, please remove them, because these words are often vague and have multiple interpretations, or are simply difficult to observe or measure. Yeah, this is also this American Association Law Libraries, their reference also we have seen, and for us also it is very difficult to measure when we have a verb like no. As such, it is best to avoid using these terms when creating expected learning outcome statements. So we should avoid this because just I have given one example, a general example. The students will understand basic human development theory. Suppose this is the learning outcome, or the student will appreciate music from other culture. So suppose these are the two statements. Okay. Then both of these learning outcomes are stated in a manner that will make them difficult to assess. How do you observe someone understanding a theory or appreciating other culture? How easy will it be to measure understanding or appreciation? But if you write, the students will be able to identify and describe the major theories of human development. Then here you can ask question on identify this, describe the major theories, and then you can assess. The student will be able to tell me. So he says, sir, I understood, but I cannot explain. Then I ask him whether you can write. So he says, no, sir, I cannot write also. See, now, unless and until he explain or write, how I can measure him? So he just understanding is not measurable that way. Sometimes we ask, do you know? Yes, students, yes, sir, I know, but I cannot explain. Unless and until he explain, we cannot measure. So that is why it is said in the context of the outcomes and attainment, these are very vague verbs. So we should try to avoid. If you revisit your course outcome, definitely you will find that you have used to understand, to know, to apprehend with, to appreciate, and so on. So there is a need to make them very specific. Okay, so that's why I have. And then, as we are talking about level of learning and thinking, remember is the first level, understand second level, apply third level. So depending on what verb you choose in your CO, it will decide that what level of learning or level of thinking you are taking to your students. So these are the 6 levels, and list of action verbs related to this critical thinking according to Bloom. If you see, so here this is a table which gives you 6 different level and the verbs which you should pick up while designing your question paper or while writing your course outcomes also, so that you will take your student to learn at a higher level. So higher level of learning will happen. Of course, in this, some of the words you will find they are at different levels. They are repeated also, but that repetition will be there, and it will be depending on what you write after that particular word. So that statement will decide at what level of learning you are taking to your students. So these are some of the guidelines. So whenever we sit for preparing our course outcomes, or even for preparing question paper, we should sit with this table. This table is available in the domain whenever you go through the Blooms and all. So it's not that it is something new. So that's why it's my humble, you can say, appeal to all to go through this particular table and see. Of course, the great things never come from comfort zone, because if you start using this table and these verbs and then you start preparing your COs and question paper, it will take little more time. It will not be very easy, because it is very easy to go, the student will be able to know and then write something after that, and then your course outcomes will be ready within 10 minutes. But if you start thinking about the level of learning, level of thinking, whether measurable or not, which work to pick up so that it will be at higher level, it will definitely take time. But once they are ready, you will also have satisfaction that you have made good efforts to prepare the course outcomes, which are measurable, which are observable, which are higher level of learning and thinking, etc. Okay. Some of the world's 100, we can say top 100 universities. I will just rush through them being time. I think my time is almost ending. So I will rush through the COs which they have prepared for their universities. It is just for the sake of showing you the verbs, what type of verb they are picking. So if this is University of California, Berkeley, for them, for this particular course of mechanical vibrations, these are the verbs which I have just made red: derive, linearize, compute, determine, and design. For this MIT program structural analysis subject, analyze, determine, identify, perform analysis, recognize. So they are taking them to fourth level, fifth level, sixth level of learning and thinking. So that is what is the depth of the particular course. Is also MIT Electrical and Computer Science, Circuit and Electronics. It's here. Employ, analyze, design, check, determine, perform. So they are at third level, that fourth level, they are at fifth level of learning and thinking if you go through their statement of the course outcome. But one thing you will see here that their course outcomes are too many. We are talking about 4 to 6 and they have too many. So for that, I had different answer to that. When you have too many course outcomes, you are going to very minute in the curriculum, for which you need much more time and energy to evaluate that particular area. And in our case, when we talk about 1:20 faculty student ratio, 1:25 faculty student ratio, it is becoming difficult for us. So confined to 4 to 6 will be moderate to put our efforts to assess the attainments of the course outcome. Otherwise, nobody stops you from making more than that also. But that has this particular difficulty also for going evaluating, for mapping it to the CO, to the POs, and all. So this textile here, this is yes, here one of the first I am not agree with the understand, but demonstrate, relate, demonstrate, and all other where it's Manchester School of Materials. Then okay, so these were a few of the COs which I have shown you for different universities. Then just one example, what we can do for our particular course. If we had a course in a particular semester, suppose 6-semester course, this is a CO for quantity survey estimation and valuation, where estimate first statement COs, and then what is the level of higher order thinking skill. So that we can just map for our own purpose, so that we will know that up to what level to estimate, then prepare. So prepare is going to apply third level. Analyze rates of various items. So analyze goes to fourth level. Prepare tender document is also application of something to apply to third level. Perform evaluation of different civil engineering structures is also applies to third level. Accordingly, we will also know that for our particular course, where we are, whether we are taking the datum of third level, fourth level, fifth level, or we are at understanding level, or we are at remembering level, first and second level. That is what is needed to be. Of course, few courses will be at the remembering, understanding level also when we start with first year, some of the courses in second year basic courses also. But not that all the COs will map with the first or second level. They should go to third level, fourth level also. So that is what is the example here. And then the next is, although these are all the things which we were talking about COs and its relevance and so on, we should also know whether our institute can go for accreditation. So what are the requirements as a pre-qualifier for Tier 1 and Tier 2 institutions? So every institutions will have vision, mission, and PO. So will be stated in the prospects and website. All are the POs of the program listed in the prospect of the website. So there is a requirement for all Tier 1 and Tier 2. Whether approval of the competent authority, AICT, UGC, or deemed university, etc., has been obtained for all the years, including current year. So if you are applying in 2020, so 2020 and 2 years before that, so for the 3 years, you have all these approvals. Whether admissions in the undergraduate program at the institute level has been more than or equal to, that is the average of previous 3 academic years, including the current academic year. So for Tier 1 institutions, it is 60%, and Tier 2 institutions, it is 50%. That institute level overall admission should be at least 50%. At the same time, whether the admissions in the undergraduate program under consideration has been more than or equal to 50% for Tier 2 and 60% for. So one is at the institute level overall admissions, and another is the program for which you are applying. For that program, whether in current year and last previous 2 years, so 3 years average, the admissions are 50% or more for Tier 2 and 60% or more for Tier 1. Then whether faculty student ratio in the department under consideration is better than or equal to. It is also average over previous 3 academic years, including the current. It is 1:25. So 1:25 ke under means 1:20 will do, 1:15 will be excellent, no issue. But for the administrative purpose, it is 1:20. But here, if it is going up to 1:25, but if it is going beyond 1:25, then you are not eligible for applying at all to the National Board of Accreditation. At the same time, whether at least professors or associate professors are available in the department. So in Tier 1, you should have at least 2 professors or 1 professor and 1 associate professor. And in Tier 2, you should have at least 1 professor or 1 associate professor in the department. That is the requirement. It should have at least 1 professor or associate professor, which is eligible according to the AICTE qualification requirement. And whether number of available PhDs in the department is greater than or equal to of the required number of faculty for previous 2 academic years. So current and previous academic year. So for Tier 1 institutions, you should have number of PhDs 20%, whereas in Tier 2, you should have number of PhDs at least 10% of the total faculty required. Then whether 2 batches have passed out from your institution, means though graduate batches nikal chuke, that is one thing which you need to see. And whether HOD possesses PhD degree for the program under consideration, that is applicable for Tier 1 institutions and not applicable for Tier 2 institutions. So these are the, we can say, the basic requirement which we should see when we are applying for accreditation. So this will not take much time to go through all this. Within a day, you can have all this data and analysis whether you are eligible to apply for accreditation. And if all this compliance status comes yes, and there are few other desirable, but they are desirable. These are the you can say compulsory requirements which I have discussed here. Okay. And now, being the strategic plan, after going through all this discussion, what we need to do, you need to do as a participant, what is expected from you, as I was talking about the outcomes and so on. What is expected from you is like reframing of course outcome statement in curriculum to make them measurable and observable, and to promote higher forms of thinking in education. That is what you can have an exercise at the institute level in next 15 days time frame. To keep your course files ready for the year 18-19 with attainments of COs, POs, PSOs for review. To prepare course files for the year 19-20. This course files means all your course faculties data in that, attendance, your COs and attainment of COs, your marks, your mapping and so on. Okay. Prepare the course files for the year 19-20 in accordance with the OBE with attainments and COs, POs and PSOs. Also, that is ongoing, so you must be preparing for 19-20, or some of the institutions might have already completed this activity. Frame questions for in-semester test, in-semester examination, teacher's assessment, etc., reflecting critical thinking skills or higher order thinking skills as and when you set your question paper. That is what is expected after going through this content. Upload revised curriculum on institute website in view of changing of COs, PSOs, etc. So if by going through this exercise, you can do this, and you can immediately after revision you can upload your revised curriculum to this website. Prepare pre-qualifier and upload on NBA portal. So pre-qualifier you can prepare, and those who are eligible can upload on NBA portal within 15 days. And then you can also go ahead with preparing the self-assessment report and upload on NBA portal once pre-qualifier is approved within 30 to 45 days. So this can be the line of action, or this can be the strategic plan for the institution after going through this basic knowledge. And of course, many more how to go through the SAR and all is necessary to fill the SAR, but at least you can do these activities to go with. Okay. Of course, excellence is not a skill, it's an attitude. Excellence will come through attitude. So we should have that attitude to go ahead with these modifications where we need to, these are the references. And thank you very much. Of course, at least I think I have taken 1.5 hours. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Over to the organizers, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your valuable thoughts with us.
Yeah.
I think
open for question answer.
Yes. It will be beneficial to all our participants. Thank you, sir. So open to for our question answer session. Sir, I want to ask one question from my side.
Yes, sir.
We have defined one PEO of civil engineering regarding development of ability to to practice ethically and focusing on the social relevance.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to just ask one here that there is no way to produce or teach the students some ethical values or having a social relevance. So how there is a way to teach the students regarding the ethical values and social relevance? Because in civil engineering there is a many problems regarding the bribes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So,
is there any way to develop some ethical values and social responsibility in
ethical
between the
values
students?
and social relevance. Ethical values is like uh, adding values to the behavioral part of the candidate, which we
Yes,
can
yes.
maybe sometimes we can have some debate on a particular issue. Sometimes we give some topics in the communication skill subject in a lab, and they have debate on ethical issues. So
Yes.
that can be one thing, and another, if we talk about, you have talked about another thing, social relevance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So social relevance, we can a lot of things we can do that. Basically, mainly in BTech project, what we already do that we will ask students to pick a topic which will have social relevance. Like in civil engineering, if they pick a village and they develop a village development plan, that how this village can be modified to improve the life of the people there, maybe by managing the municipal solid waste or proper water supply connections or proper garbage management and so on. So this can be, we can say, the social relevance. So point of view. So this
Yes.
way, we can take care of both of these things in PSO.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. One of our participant, Naneshwar Mule, have asked that how can we differ course objective and course outcome?
So yeah, nowadays what we say, initially when we were preparing course objectives, they
Yes.
were more focused to the coverage, more focused to the coverage, means the faculty oriented. But if you see 10 15 years back, our curriculum, we were having the objectives, and they were more focused to the coverage, what we are going to cover. But
Yes.
now what we talk is about the outcomes. Outcomes are what students will be able to do. So the focus is student centered now. So that's why course outcomes, when we talk, it is what students are expected to learn from this particular course. So with this perspective, we had a course outcome now. So that way is the difference.
It means we can say
But
that course objectives at the entry level of the course and course outcomes are after the completion of the course.
that way
Students are
also
able
would
to.
be correct, but I have seen nowadays also few institutions or few universities are writing course outcomes oblique course objectives. That is also
Okay.
thing
Okay.
where they
Okay.
have put it equivalent, and they have really written course outcomes only below that. But that is
Okay.
also one of the, I will say, whether ambiguity or whether their method of putting it in a way. So in
Okay.
that
Okay.
case, they are course outcome only.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you. One of participant, our Bamne sir, has asked that how to frame the PSO.
PSO are, as I have told you while explaining PSO, that they are specific to the program. Because, so they should have a flavor of the program, that what is happening in the particular program. Okay. So as I have given you some example of civil engineering, that what students of civil engineering will do, they will design the civil engineering facility, or they will supervise the civil engineering facility, they will go through the quality aspects of the construction, or they will they at a managerial level, etc., and so on. So we have to keep in mind the flavor of the program should come when we design the program specific outcome, because we are already having PO in parallel to this program specific outcome. Okay, so PSOs will have flavor of the program and also flavor of the graduate attributes. Okay, because by going through the curriculum, they are also attaining the graduate attribute. So that way, we can have the PSO frame where we can always take the you can say help of the industry and alumni also.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
One more participant, Mazgaonkar madam, has asked that what is the importance of rubrics in CO and POs?
Rubrics,
Importance of rubrics.
yeah, importance of rubric is in the assessment. Generally, when we assess something or when we do something, it's rubric helps us to evaluate it at a proper way. Because in the rubrics we give that this particular skill, if these things are there in the rubrics, I have put it there 3 and 4 marks. Then these things are there, then 5 and 6 marks, and so on. So rubric, you can say, is are the parameters or the process to do the things in a better way, we can say, and to evaluate the things in a better way. So that's why we say that when we assess the project, when we assess the seminar, we should have a rubric that where we had a
Yes.
different marks to the presentation, different marks to the write-up, different marks to the communication, different marks to the question answer, and so on. So that is the I will say their rubric helps.
Yes, sir. Sir, can we give one example for justification of course outcome?
Course outcome,
One example for justification of course outcome.
yeah, just like I have given the example of music in the
Yeah.
presentation, that how somebody can understand this thing, music, appreciate the music or something like that. Rather than that, I think there was one example on that I have given on course outcomes when I was talking about that we cannot appreciate. We have to differentiate that what type of music was there, what and so that is basic human development theory, or understand or appreciate music from other cultures. So this, if we write this, understanding or appreciating, how you will measure understanding or appreciating, rather than if you have students will be able to identify and describe the major theories of human development,
Yeah.
and students will be able to identify the characteristics of music from the culture. So this will be identification. So you can, if you can differentiate between different major theories of human development, you will say that yes, this course outcome is attained. Otherwise, just understanding, as I told you that student said I understood, but I cannot explain. Then we cannot measure him like that. So okay, it is like that.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Petkar sir has asked one question, sir. How to use 3 domains while preparing the CO?
Huh. Domains to prepare the COs.
CO, yes.
No, all the 3 domains are required, because student knowledge, skill, and attitude, all 3 together will be there.
Yeah.
All 3 will be there. We are not preparing the COs according to the domain, because all 3 domains all together are needed. When we observe a student doing some experiment, suppose some student is doing some experiment in the hydraulic laboratory, and we had a CO like demonstrate particular thing, particular whatever experiment you have. So that demonstration includes all the 3 domains. How? Because for demonstrating that, he needs the knowledge, he needs the skill to do that thing, the steps, and he needs that attitude to involve sincerely in getting the particular result. So knowledge, skill, and attitude, so all these cognitive domains, psychometric domain, and affective domain are needed for a single CO itself, isn't it?
Okay.
So these domains will be in this, but CO we differentiate according to the levels, as sir might be interested to have the different levels in that, as we had different levels of learning and thinking, as 6 levels I was talking about. So that way we can have the COs at different levels, but all the domains can come in a particular CO. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, sir. Mm, our Professor Vidya Patil has asked,
Hmm.
course outcomes are generally measured with result analysis.
Yes.
Then what about other professional skills like communication, lifelong learning, etc.? So is it
All
only measured with result analysis?
no, no, no. The concept is like course outcomes are for a there is a curriculum, and in curriculum there are n number of subjects.
Yes.
Few subjects or few courses are also about the communication, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are also lifelong learning. Like the project is a lifelong learning only. You had new things to
Yes, sir.
learn in project. So that courses are already having the COs which map to POs. So POs are lifelong learning or communication. So these COs are mapping to that POs also. So automatically the all these POs will be mapped by some or other COs which are there in the particular courses. That's why we have to initially see whether our curriculum is well balanced to take care of most of the POs. That's why
Yes.
some of the courses like ethics, like communication, are added nowadays in the syllabus.
Yes, yes. One
So that
subject is also there, sir, in our civil engineering,
yes,
that
yes,
essence of Indian traditional knowledge.
correct, correct. So these courses will map to that POs directly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, sir. One of our participants, Sheetal Gowde, has asked that what are the recurring and non-recurring aspects?
Of what?
Not mentioned here, sir. Recurring
Recurring
and
and
non.
non-recurring is part of that is the part of account where we
Yeah.
have to view the expenditures, recurring and non-recurring, which
Ah,
expenses.
It's not more
That's
relevant.
it's not related,
So
I
that
think.
is the one in one of the table they ask about the balance sheet and our details. So there it is required for recurring and non-recurring. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
One of the participant I am seeing that Mr. R.B. Patil has asked, this is more relevant to our current context, the pandemic. What he says is, what are the assessment tools for online mode of academic delivery, especially in COVID-19 pandemic context?
Yeah. But now online there are n number of tools. There's some of the you can say software industries have also developed.
ICT needs
But
to take.
yeah, ICT, there are some institutes are already using online tools. They have online quiz to assess the student. They have online exams. They have some instant quiz after the lecture and so on, where student has to just go through every there are four options and they have to solve 10 questions in 10 minutes and so on. And they are being recorded. That some institutes are already doing that since last 2 3 years. But now, after closing down of institutions since March, what most of us have done that we have used Google Classroom, and in Google Classroom, we can give the you can say assignments to students, which students upload immediately there during the whatever time you have given, and you can assess it there itself, and that marks are communicated to students also. You can compile them. So that is also one type of this thing. And some institutions have tailor-made softwares which will help you to analyze all your marks and all. So that is also there. But nowadays, Google Classroom we are using mainly. Yeah.
Right. Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. One of our colleague, Professor Seema Patil, has asked that how to design PSO for first year programs, because first year is related to number of programs, civil, mechanical, electrical, all there are there. So for
Yeah.
design of PSO,
Generally, PSOs are program specific. So the courses of first year which are program specific, or the department, generally the department will frame the PSOs, and
yes,
first year courses which are aligned with that PSOs we need to map. There are no separate PSO for first year as such, because PSOs are program specific. So civil engineering program will frame the PSOs, and first year courses will also be aligned some or other way in one or other PSOs, because there will be analysis, there will be mathematical knowledge needed, there will be some chemistry background needed for the higher courses, and there will be drawing background needed for the higher courses when they are planning or something like that. So they are mapped to the PSOs which are framed at the program level. So there are no separate PSOs required at first year level. That is what I think.
Yes, sir. Sir, one more general question is there, that for this accreditation process or for this outcome-based education and etc., a lot of time is consumed for preparation of the different documents and other things. So our participants are asking that, as there is a time consuming, when we will get the time for this academic activities and teaching learning process?
Oh, this is the question which I expect always.
Yes, sir.
And then I am of different opinion about this. That we always had 16 or 18 load. What I feel, 18 hours load. If we are fully engaged with the student, 18 hours we are engaged. And if we have 5 days a week and 7 into 5, you have 35 hours in a week.
Yes.
When you are in institute for 35 hours, let the 5 hours go for lunch and other and some other activities, suppose. But still there are 30 hours and professor has only 12 to 14 hours, so 16 hours are balanced. Associate professor 14 hours to 16 hours, so 14 hours are balanced. Assistant professor 16 or 18 hours, still 12 hours are balanced there. So this is only the time when we are in institute. Of course, nobody stops you to work beyond the institutional hours also. That is different issue. But I am only talking about the institute. And then people may not like, but I will give my example here that when I can take 2 courses every semester and
Yes.
do all these things, with that, I always, many times I am administrative head or I am dean, also I had that responsibility. I am a research guide to master students, PhD students. I am writing some research papers. I am a consultant to university, to municipal corporations, PWD, CPWD, MIDC. And last year's my consultancy turnover is touching to 1 crore. So that
Yes.
activity I am doing. I am expert member of AICT, going to various institutions, visiting them, going for their meetings at Delhi and across the country. I am a member of National Board of Accreditation, visiting different institutions in the country for accreditation. And also I am delivering some expert talks just like I am giving you. So this much, and beyond that, also I take my family for picnic, and I go to my native place also twice,
Yes, sir.
thrice or 4 times. I attend all marriages and all the activities, and still I find time that I can ask to the institution that if you had any need, you can contact me. I have still more time with me. And all I do, all my course outcomes, program outcomes, even beyond that, institute level for other programs, there's self-assessment report review of some other institution self-assessment report, some other institutions something that much also I can do. If I can do this much, you can at least do for your course and your attainment and your CO2 PO mapping. That is not very much. That is just 1/4 of what I am doing.
Yes,
Why,
of course, sir.
why this cow for how much lot of work is there? I don't find any difficulty in that. And beyond that, there are many tools nowadays. You have that all the statistics and tools are doing the calculations. So you have to only provide the data. Only you should know what is happening there. That is important. So
Yes.
then, why this cow for that? I don't find that. It is just the
Yes.
it is just a motivation which you need that
Yes,
I have to
yes.
do this and
And the positive attitude.
yeah, it is just attitude that I need to do this and happily you can do. When and always I say when you are in college from 9 to 5, 9 to 5 में कॉलेज में रह के क्या बोर हो रहा है, क्या ये HOD ये बोलता है, क्या प्रिंसिपल वो काम बताता है. Rather than going through all this, if you do that work and finish it off, nobody will say you anything. You have done with that. उतना टाइम वहां गवा नहीं है तो why not it be utilized for some progressive. That is what I feel for this. That is my answer for this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, might be some people might not like it, but this is the yeah.
Yeah, of course, sir. Okay, thank you, sir, for your. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Moite sir. I want to ask one question to Dr. Abhay sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Please.
Hello.
Please.
Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Yeah. I want to ask question for Dr. Abhay sir regarding how to map COs and POs and how to calculate the attainment of students with respect to their subjects and courses.
Sir,
Yes,
you
yes,
have
sir.
a very
Sir.
relevant and very good question. But this is the question in everybody's mind that people talk a lot, and then what is to be done actually? You talk a lot of things about mapping, attainment, but what exactly to be done by the faculty? That is the question which sir has asked, and
Yes, sir.
very proper. Actually, attainment is something. If we ask, but really how to map the attainment and how to calculate and on, it will be a full session. But in brief, I will tell you that when I am assessing a particular course and I have some questions with me for direct assessment, and so suppose I have 5 questions, each of 5 marks. So that questions I will map with the COs, and then after assessment of the answer paper, I will CO wise, I will take the cumulative CO wise marks, CO1 or CO2. If only 2 COs are mapped to these questions, then I will just have a list of students and write CO1 marks of CO1 in front of that. And then, according to the policy of the department or the institute, to decide the datum, if we have decided the datum on the basis of previous result of the course or previous result of the university, like if the 60% is the previous result, and if I am considering that as a datum, and then I will count how many students are getting more than that particular mark. So if about in 50 students, if 30 students are getting more than 60% mark, so 30 by 50, 30 students getting more than my datum mark out of 50. So 30 by 50. So this is 60%. So 60% is my attainment of the CO1. That way we calculate. So there are different methods to calculate. This is one of the methods. There is no very specific method, because here the requirement is how you improve upon in each and every year. So datum, how to decide the datum, why this much datum, and so on are debatable questions. But just I have given one example for the COs. And then this 60% or 70% which is coming, how much this is coming on the scale of 1, 2, 3, which we have decided for PO. If we have decided 60% and above as 1, 70% and above as 2, and 80% and above as 3, then this CO, where it fits into that. So that value will go to the PO matrix. And then all such CO's values will come to the PO matrix, and the average of the PO will be calculated. So this is the method. But actually explaining will take a lot of time. But this is the way we calculate the attendance.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Okay,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Thank you, sir. Very fruitful and very informative session given by Dr. Abhay, sir. We are very much thankful to you, sir, and the organizers, Dr. Moite, sir, and all their colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak Patil, sir. Is there any question from participants?